Hello folks, in this video I will be doing a brief review of the Tplink Homeplug system. So this in front of you right now is an example of some of the products that Tplink offer. They also do some that have built-in Wi-Fi extender capability. Now, why is Homeplug better for Wi-Fi extension? Well, it's better because you actually have these Ethernet ports that can plug into switcher boxes, or you can actually have them extend the actual speed of your Wi-Fi. Now, what I mean by this is they will take your internet signal, as it were, and put it over your power lines. So when they're extending the Wi-Fi range, they're actually taking the speed with it. A normal Wi-Fi extender simply expands the range but drastically impacts the speed of it. Whereas with these, this one itself isn't a Wi-Fi extender. With these, you can actually, you plug them in, and sometimes you might need to put them in plug sockets next to each other, where you'll then have to press these little buttons. They're in different spots, but there's a pair button up there and a pair button there, and you plug them in next to each other, press the pair buttons, they'll pair up, and then you can plug them into any socket in your house, and they'll then provide fairly high speed internet across your power lines. Now, of course, the speed of this depends on your power lines. So in, say, an old Victorian house, they won't be quite as good as what they are in a more modern house. But having said that, this says 2000 megabits per second. Now, that's slightly disingenuous. They're trying to make it sound faster than what it is. In reality, what you're looking at is a max of 200 megabytes per second. But in reality, you'll probably get about 80 on most sort of power line systems. But that's still fast enough for anything, really. Even streaming 4K content only requires 15 megabytes per second. So these are fast enough for basically everything you'll need. And they can also take the pressure off of your Wi-Fi because obviously things like iPhones and whatnot and laptops will probably be connected to Wi-Fi because you can't, I suppose a laptop you could connect by other means, but generally speaking you'll connect them all with Wi-Fi. So it makes sense to kind of have them take some of the pressure off of that, and that means that you also get a more stable connection using this system. So you've got these vents around the outside. You want to give them a clean ever so often so that they don't get clogged up, because these do get a little bit hot. They are plugged in, so you want to give them a clean. Then you've got your two Ethernet ports on top. That might not be enough for what you need, so you can buy Ethernet switches, and then you put one Ethernet cable from this to the switch, and then you can put everything else from the switch to your other devices. Now, these aren't foolproof. They do sometimes seem to desynchronize from each other, and you'll have to sort of play around with plug sockets, because sometimes they actually prefer one plug socket to another. I have no idea why that's the case, but it is. So I'm reviewing these Tplink ones because these are probably the most commonly bought ones. Devolo do make faster ones. They're a German company. Tplink are Chinese, but I think these come from their American arm. And these are the ones that offer the best value for money in my experience. If you can get the ones with the plug through on them, what that means is that you can, of course, continue to use the plug socket for other things. They're slightly thicker then, and they still have the same vents and whatnot, and you want to try and keep them clear of dust and debris if you can, to keep these things running as nicely as possible. Like I said, they do get a bit warm, but for the price, for those two together, you would probably pay between 60 and 80 pounds, and whatever that costs in American dollars. And the benefit of these, as I said, is they reduce usage of your Wi-Fi system, so that your phones and laptops and Nintendo Switch, things like that, can actually get full use of the Wi-Fi. They're great for gaming because they don't have the latency that tends to come in with Wi-Fi systems. So you can actually, it's best if you can hook things like your PlayStation 5 or a stationary computer up to these things, and you'll then get faster speeds out of them. And more stable speeds. Wi-Fi theoretically does have the highest speed, but again, that is impacted by things like how thick your walls are. If you live in an older house, you've probably got more solid walls inside, and in fact a newer house that has aluminium framed interior walls will also bounce the signal around, and every bounce of signal reduces its strength and requires error correction and whatnot, and that reduces its speed. So ideally you want these as a solution alongside Wi-Fi. You can of course get Wi-Fi extenders, like I said, and those will increase your Wi-Fi using the Powerline adapters, so you'll get a lot more stability and actual speed. So for example, if you put one of these at your back door at the end of your garden, you'll probably you won't be getting the full speed, but if your Wi-Fi was running at say 80 megabits per second, one of these extending the Wi-Fi out, you'd probably still get 30 to 40, which is fast enough for everything you need. So they're brilliant for that. Like I said, they're not absolutely foolproof, and you do have to, I'd recommend getting Tplink's app or using your laptop connected to one of these directly to update the firmware on them, because some of them have had energy efficiency issues where they'll switch themselves off and then they won't actually switch themselves back on properly. So I'd recommend turning the energy efficiency stuff off on these. In all honesty, they sip so little power anyway, I'm not really sure it's a necessity to worry too much about the energy usage of these things. So that's been my review of the Tplink Powerlink system. Sorry, Homeplug. There's different names for it, but Homeplug is the standard. You can get them in different speeds. I'd recommend around 2000 megabits. That seems to be the sweet spot where most houses can provide something near that. And they're not too expensive, and they're easy to set up, and just an overall good system. You can of course get them from lots of different brands. In my experience, I quite like Tplink. They're not too expensive, they're still decently made and pretty reliable. Devolo do seem to make the absolute fastest, so it might be worth looking into them if absolute speed is important to you. And pair them up with your Wi-Fi and you get a good solution for your home. So I can highly recommend these things. So I hope you enjoyed this video, found it useful, and that you'll consider going out and perhaps looking at these yourself. And if you did enjoy it and find it useful, please remember to hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, and check out my Patreon. Of course, I'll be doing more videos like this, and so subscribing and ringing that bell is the best way to see them, if indeed you would like to. So if you've watched up to this point, I'd like to thank you for doing so, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.